Listen to your favorite shows live and on demand 24/7. Download the 77 WABC mobile app now. Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Katz and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies.
And we are talking, John, on Katz and Cosby about some of the inconsistencies. Is that a nice way? We were just hearing tell me lies, but Kamala Harris on one hand saying, oh, she's against fracking. Now she's for it. She's,
well, I was on,
all these
Fox
mixed
Business.
messages.
I was on Fox Business.
You
today.
did a great job. I saw you.
And I was on with Stuart Varney, and she is thinking, seriously considering doing Josh Shapiro as vice president for her vice president.
Right, Governor Pennsylvania.
And in Pennsylvania, fracking is prevalent. And the story I told on Fox Business, that with fracking on the Pennsylvania side, the people are driving Cadillacs and Mercedes. On the New York side, they're driving 55 Chevys.
Kind of like Havana.
Yeah, like Havana, whatever. But so she is against the oil business, Kamala Harris. She is against, she is for electric cars, against gas cars. So how is she going to mix with Josh Shapiro? We'll know. Because they did say that she's going to pick her vice president nominee by Tuesday.
Yep, and Tuesday.
So I think it's down to what I hear. It's down to Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania or Kelly from Arizona.
Yep, the senator
that President Obama wanted.
No, I heard a third
my
name.
rumor was
I heard a third name.
Right.
I heard the Minnesota.
Waltz.
Yes,
Waltz.
Minnesota Governor, right? Waltz. So those three.
And he's also a super progressive.
Don't forget, President Obama maybe forced her or twisted her arm that he wants Kelly because that's what he wanted.
Yeah, that's exactly.
But what is the truth? Well, tune in on Tuesday. You'll find out.
And by the way, you talk about the mixed messages, not just on energy, but also on border. She came out with an ad yesterday. I couldn't believe it, saying she's tougher on the border than Trump. So maybe that's why she might try to bring in Kelly.
She was the border czar. And what they did, tell me, Doctor.
I wasn't smart to medical school.
Judge Weinberg, yesterday you were jokingly telling a story about the Russians.
Okay, George Orwell wrote the great book 1984. It's based on Stalinist Russia. And this is the fact, that when you can't defend your record, you erase history. And that's exactly what Harris...
So what did they did?
They're erasing everything.
They took a picture.
Right.
Yeah.
They have the Politburo. Right.
The Politburo, they're all lined up, and there's this one guy who got disappeared. So next year,
in other words, they took the
picture
and they changed it.
They erased it.
It never existed.
As if he never was at the meeting.
And that's what they're doing.
That's with her record.
That's what Kamala is doing.
With her record.
They're erasing the fact that she was the border czar.
You can't say that anymore.
Yeah, they're sending out talking points.
You can't say it, because, and God forbid you say it.
It's not on the internet any place. I want anybody out there to go to the internet and find out if Kamala Harris is still the border czar.
And by the way, we have Doug Burgum coming up, you guys, of course, who was brought up. He's the North Dakota governor, and he's going to talk about these inconsistencies.
And we have in the studio with us Rudy Washington, rumored to be part of the George Washington clan, the darker version of George Washington.
It is I, and it's good to be here.
Welcome back, Rudy.
Just to offer some commentary. Here we go again. Seems like every 4 years we get all these promises. We get the media in the tank for the Democrats. And it's just amazing how they can tell you, don't believe your lying eyes. She wasn't the border czar.
I can't believe it. I can't
either.
believe the number of lies in Washington.
But you know what I can't believe, John, is that the media's buying it. They should be saying, wait a minute, this ain't true.
They're either stupid.
They're not buying it. They're in the tank. Okay, it's not that they've been snookered. It's not that they've been snookered, John.
Well,
they are in the tank.
Listen, is reporters stupid, or they're doing it what their bosses are telling them to do, and they're afraid of getting fired?
Or they philosophically believe
they're
it.
They're part of that culture.
I agree.
They're part of that progressive culture.
By the way, there was a meeting at the NABJ. This is the National Association of Black Journalists today. And a number of people were so upset that Trump was invited. They invite every sort of former president, potential future president, and a number of chairs quit because they were upset about it. I mean, come on. What world are we living
Professor
in?
Dershowitz is on.
Yes.
Bring him in. We need him.
We do need it. We always need Professor Dershowitz. We have Professor Alan Dershowitz, of course, Harvard Law School emeritus professor there. We love having you on, Professor. First off, your reaction to this sort of rewriting. We have a lot of stuff on Israel that we want to get to with you, but your thought about that the media is actually saying, oh, yeah, no, you're right. She wasn't the border czar when they even reported it themselves.
Yeah, well, I experienced that personally. I went to Moscow with Telford Taylor to defend dissidents back in the 1970s, and Telford Taylor was the chief prosecutor at Nuremberg. And we went together, Telford and I did, and saw a picture that they had hanging in the Soviet Union of the lawyers at Nuremberg, and there was a blank where he was. And he took out the original photograph and showed it to them. And he said, "Where am I?" And the Soviet people said, "Oh, you weren't there for that picture." So I actually experienced the rewriting of history through a photograph. Look, the New York Times is rewriting history now with the man who was killed, the head of Hamas. They're saying he was a moderate. He was negotiating. He's not a terrorist. They practically were sitting Shiva over this guy for being killed. I mean, these are guys, the guy from Hezbollah, who Americans had a $5 million bounty. I don't know who's going to get the money, but $5 million bounty to kill this guy because he had killed 320
the Marine
American
barracks.
Marines in the
Marine
barracks
in Lebanon.
and other Americans in Iraq and others. And so, we should all be cheering that these murderers and terrorists who kill children are no longer able to do this killing. And yet today I saw articles in the paper saying, oh, Israelis are cheering too loud. Don't they believe in the value of life? Yeah, I believe in the value of life. That's why I want these guys dead, because I believe in the value of life, because they take life if they're alive. So I think it was a great thing that Israel used targeted assassination. The other double standard is that many opponents of Israel said, oh, don't go into Gaza, don't send troops, just use targeted assassination. Go after the leaders, they were saying. Now they go after the leaders. Oh, no, you shouldn't go after the leaders. That's assassination, and that's illegal. You have to defend yourself, and you have to defend yourself by all reasonable means, consistent with the rule of law, and killing combatant terrorist leaders are consistent with the rule of law.
Alan, they also took out a leader of the Revolutionary Guards in Syria, one of the top commanders there as well. So you really have a trifecta there. Don't you think that Israel is sending out a message?
Yes, I think the message is very powerful. If you kill our children, if you kill our people on October 7th, you will not survive. It was the same message that was sent out during the Olympics in the 1970s. Golda Meir said, I want every single person who killed an Israeli Olympic dead. And they all but one ended up dead. And that has to happen. That message has to be sent to the leaders. We have an organization called Hurt a Jew, We Sue You. That's writ small. Israel has a whole country that says you hurt a Jew, you hit a Jew, you attack a Jew, you kill a Jewish child, we will kill you. And there's a rumor now, as you know, that the guy in Tehran was killed along with a woman. And the rumor that has been circulated around is that it was his mistress, and that he was in bed with his mistress when he was killed. I don't think that matters, but the important thing is that he was killed.
Professor, I understand there's a third one.
Billionaire. Yeah.
I understand there might be a third person that was killed in the last 72 hours.
Yeah, the Revolutionary Guard leader in Syria.
Yeah. And remember, too, the United States killed Soleimani. A targeted assassination is good because it doesn't kill innocent people. It targets the precise person. In this case, they hit a drone or maybe from a submarine or maybe they had a hit squad. We don't know what it was exactly, but they targeted them exactly. There were no civilian casualties. The world should bless Israel for that. There have to be civilian casualties when they hide these terrorists among civilians, but to the extent that Israel could do it without killing civilians, that's so much better. So I think, Israel deserves tremendous kudos, tremendous applause. The IDF, the intelligence services, the Mossad. I'm friendly with the head of the Israeli Mossad, David Bernea. He's a wonderful, wonderful man, a former businessman who became head of the Mossad. He's now in Rome and in Qatar trying hard to bring about an end of the hostilities and a return of the hostages. And Israel is lucky that it has great leaders. You can be critical of particular leaders. I am certainly of Ben-Gvir and Smotrich and others on the extreme right. But Israel's a democracy, and it elects who it elects, just like we elect who we elect. I don't like a lot of the people that we elect. I don't like the squad. I don't like Elizabeth Warren, but, she was elected by my colleagues in Massachusetts.
The one thing the American people don't realize, because the kids that were killed were not even Israeli kids. I understand they were Arab kids.
Well, no, they're Israelis.
Jews.
The issue.
Israeli
the
citizens?
Yeah, they were Jews.
No, the United States has recognized the Golan Heights as part of Israel. I was there when that happened, and I advised President Trump on that as a matter of law. So the United States recognizes the Golan Heights, and therefore the Druze. Now, some of them have chosen to be citizens of Israel. Some have decided to maintain their Syrian citizenship. Some are without citizenship at all. But it doesn't matter. Israel regards them as within the protection of Israel. They were Israelis. The Jews say, forgive, the terrorists say, forgive us. We didn't mean to kill Druze. We meant to kill Jews. And as if that would have been better if they had killed 12 Jewish kids instead of 12 Muslim Druze kids. But it doesn't matter. They're within the protection of Israel, and Israel has not only the right but the obligation to protect everybody under its jurisdiction, and that includes, of course, Druze as well. And remember, Jews fight in the Israeli army. They're very brave. When I went to visit Ehud Olmert in prison, the joke I told was when you're telling an Israeli former prime minister and they ask him, what's your cell number? It's not necessarily your telephone. It might be your prison cell. So I went to visit him in his prison, and he was being guarded by a 22-year-old Arab Muslim Druze. The former prime minister of Israel was being guarded by a Druze.
God.
Wow.
And the man who sentenced the Israeli president to prison was an Arab, an Israeli Arab. So that's apartheid? Did that ever happen in Africa once? Of course not.
And there wasn't any problems in the Gaza until the Israelis until the Iranians pressed the button.
Of course. Iran
thank you.
presses all the buttons. Iran is the head of the octopus. The tentacles of the octopus are being attacked, but ultimately Iran has to be held responsible.
Thank you so much, Professor, and we'll catch up again real soon, hopefully again this week, because we got to tell the American people the truth.
Good.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to do that.
Thank you,
bless
Professor.
And right now, Rita, why don't you bring in, I understand you have the governor on the phone?
Yes, we have North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. Governor, we're so glad to have you back here on Katz and Cosby. Let's get right to it. By the way, earlier today, John was on Fox Business, Varney and Company with my buddy Stuart Varney there, talking about energy and talking about Kamala Harris. She is all over the place in terms of fracking, no fracking, energy. She's flipping and flopping. Your thoughts about this?
Well, Rita, John, always great to be with you. And, yeah, unbelievable. We've got in Harris, we have really one of the most liberal candidates ever to run for president ever in our history of our country. And here you've got somebody who's rooted in California, believes in getting rid of gas-powered cars, supported all of the trillions of dollars of subsidies towards support climate extremism, and then you're just talking about Israel, and then she supports policies which are crushing the U.S. energy industry and allowing Iran to increase their production to these new levels that they're at, which is then funding all the terrorism that you were just talking about. And so, again, her policies on energy, bad for the U.S. economy, great for our adversaries, Russia, Iran, Venezuela, great for China on the EV thing. So it's like this is the most anti-American approach you can have is what she's doing. And then she walks into Pennsylvania, and after spending her lifetime being against energy production, shale production, which has helped the U.S., help the U.S. Get closer to the energy dominance that would help us. She's been opposed to it, and then yesterday is like, hey, no, I'm okay with it. And so I don't think that can be trusted at all. I mean, she's just flip-flopping as any politician would. And the only answer here, there's only one party that's going to solve this, and there's only one leader that's going to solve that, and that's President Trump, who's been consistent about returning U.S. to energy independence, energy dominance. And anything that you're going to hear from Harris, from her running mate, from anybody is just a smokescreen of an extreme anti-U.S. energy policies. That's what all their policies have been and continue to be.
Doug, you've been a governor. You've been a businessman. Have you ever in your life seen so many lies going around? No, I haven't. And I've never seen, people so willing in the mainstream media to just cover up. I mean, if pick like one of the principal foundational things that President Trump, had been like, if he said, look, he's for a secure border, he's for a secure border, he's for a secure border. And then one day he walks up and says, oh, I guess I'm not for a secure border. This is her flip-flop on energy production is going unchallenged by the media, and it should be challenged every single day, which is where did it come from? What's the basis for it? Is this a change in policy? If she's for that, why is the administration she's part of driving initiative after initiative after initiative to try to kill U.S. energy? I mean, if that's her position when she's president, she doesn't have to wait. She can get started right now in trying to be supportive of U.S. energy, and she can roll back all the rules and regulations that are choking U.S. energy. So it is complete pandering for votes, and then it goes untested, as you said, John. I mean, it just is unbelievable that they're not challenged. Any Republican making such an extreme change in position would be dragged for weeks through the media.
You talked also, Governor Doug Burgum, about border, too. She actually came out with an ad. It's a group, part of her campaign, puts out an ad yesterday criticizing Trump on the border, saying it's Trump and the Republicans that are hurting the border and that she's the much, more pro-American security. That is stunning. I mean, that's an outright lie.
Well, that's one where I can't imagine anybody who's been paying any attention would ever believe that. So hopefully it's just wasted dollars with them spreading that because, she's been the open border czar. This has been her job. They've been whitewashing that in the media saying, oh, she didn't really have that responsibility. It was the only thing that as Americans we knew that she'd been assigned to do was to be the border czar, and she becomes the open border czar. She accomplished nothing. And then she's in Texas today doing a fundraiser in Houston. And, I've been, as the commander-in-chief of the North Dakota National Guard, I've had troops down there almost continuously during the Biden administration. I've been to the border way more times than the open border czar has Harris. And so she doesn't even dare physically go anywhere near it because she doesn't want to be attached to the failure of the complete failure of the Biden administration on this issue. So again, and then the press is just complicit of, whitewashing her record or trying to separate her from something that she was absolutely, completely, and totally put in charge of.
Yeah, absolutely. Judge Weinberg.
Governor, good to talk to you again. What were your thoughts about the Vice President of the United States boycotting the speech of the Prime Minister of Israel, one of our closest allies?
Well, childish, offensive, inexplicable. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if she wants to be the next president of the United States and then she's not even – and we're in a proxy war with Iran. Our ally Israel is being attacked, and she doesn't have time to be there to listen to a historic speech to Congress. I mean, if you're Israel, that would, fall in the category of basically being unforgivable.
Yeah, absolutely. Rudy Washington.
Governor, it's good to talk to you again. I would caution listeners because talking to people out there, everyday man, a lot of people buy the nonsense and basically don't do the research or basically prepare to vote. And they go to these very liberal networks and they listen to people who basically, I think it's easy to call dumb, but that's not it. These are some very intelligent people. They have no integrity. There's a dollar amount that they will accept and they will say anything. I mean, it's just amazing how they could just whitewash positions she's held on energy, on the border. We can go on and on. It's scary, and if the Trump campaign don't take this serious, we could lose this.
Well, I agree. We're in a battle right now, and that's the thing. Where as Americans, the future of our country, every day matters, and that's why elections matter. This is going to be a very consequential election, and all of the stuff that's happening right now in the media is all just a distraction to get us to try to get Americans to stop paying attention to Joe Biden's horrific record, his horrific record overseas with the wars that have been created, his record on the economy, his record on the borders, and President Trump. He's strong on the border. He's strong on the economy. He's going to be strong on national defense and stopping these wars. And when you do that, when you do the things like you stop inflation, which is hurting every American, you don't have to be a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. If you work for a living in this country, if you get a paycheck, you're being harmed by Joe Biden's policies. So President Trump has a set of policies which lift every American, and we've got to get back to that.
Yep.
When you talk about unifying the country, President Trump's policies lift up everybody. They're not for Republicans. They're for everybody. Safe border, that's for everybody. Stopping wars overseas, that's for everybody.
That's common sense.
We got to get back to that message.
That's common sense. Governor Burgum, thank you so much for coming on. And we're going to talk again real soon because we got to bring common sense back to our country.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Rita. Great to be with you.
Thank you.
Great to be with you.
Okay, let's take a break. And when we come back, well, which way is the economy going? Which way is the interest rates going? We have the one of our good friends, Adam Johnson, economist, coming on right after the break.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. A big day in the economy. And joining us now is Adam Johnson. He hosts several business shows at Bloomberg Television over the number of years. Also a huge business expert on energy and so much more. And interesting day, John. Boy, everyone waiting to see what was going to happen with interest rates, right, John?
Well, Adam, I've always said that they're supposed to be down. Canada was down, Great Britain was down, European Community is down. Why aren't we dropping interest rates, and why we have 675 banks on the watch list? Adam, what do you think?
I'll tell you, it's real simple, John. Interest rates are going to start going down in September. That is good for the economy. That is good for stocks. If you still have cash sitting in your account, put it to work. You want to buy stocks tomorrow. I bought stocks yesterday. I bought stocks today. And as more money comes in from my clients, I will be buying more stocks. And this is key, by the way. It doesn't matter whether you are a Republican or a Democrat. We are all investors. We are all capitalists, and we all want to make money. When interest rates go down, you want to own stocks.
So I saw on Fox Business the other day, or Fox News, I forget, that in the previous, a lot of previous presidential elections, the Fed lowered interest rates in the September month.
Yeah, I know. Shocking to learn that there is gambling in the halls of this fine institution.
I'm shocked.
Right? Unfortunately, yes. That's something that we have seen. Admittedly, it's from every administration that goes back to World War II, and probably before that if we could actually track it. But incumbents do everything in their power to get reelected. It's why Biden, just promised more student loan forgiveness. It's why all of a sudden Kamala Harris, who has always been against energy, says, oh, no, fracking is a good thing. That's because she wants votes in Pennsylvania where they have all that natural gas under the ground. So politicians will do and say anything to get reelected. And part of that is that incumbent Fed Reserve chairmen like Jerome Powell kind of want to keep their jobs too. And one way to do that is lower rates. And unfortunately, it ends up making the incumbent party look better because it helps the economy. I don't like that, and I think it is a political gesture. But here's the thing. This is very important. Unemployment is starting to go up. So as much as I hate to see the Fed lower rates ahead of an election, look, I'm a Republican, right? You know, I don't necessarily want to throw a bone to the Democrats to make them look good. But the fact is, I'm an American first, and I don't like seeing unemployment go up. I want to see people keep their jobs and be able to produce for their families. And as unemployment starts to creep up, you take some of the inflationary pressures out. As inflationary pressures come out, by definition, you need to lower rates. And we've all been dealing with inflation. So, again, while I hate to politicize the thing, I do think you need to do the right thing for the economy. And the right thing is to lower rates, and that's good for stocks.
Rudy?
Yes.
We agree 100%. Rudy, Washington?
Adam, how should I analyze the whole notion of a pullback?
Yep.
And whether that happens before September?
I think it already happened, Rudy, and I tell you why. You know, as a growth investor, I'm long a lot of tech stocks. The NASDAQ was down almost 10% in less than 2 weeks. Historically, if you look at election years, you tend to do very well in the middle of the summer, and then September, October, which is pretty typical, you get about a 5 to 10% drawdown, and then you get the election, all of a sudden there's certainty, and markets rally 10 to 12% into year end. Well, again, we just had a 10% pullback in the NASDAQ and 8% pullback in the S&P. I think that usual pullback you get in September, October just happened. So that's why I've actually put extra cash to work. You know, things don't always go according to script, and I think the script got pulled forward this year.
Well, I think the Democratic administration has no choice because, by the way, what I tell my friends are the reason that gasoline is so high and food is so high, well, the administration caused the problems because the Suez Canal is closed, the Red Sea is closed, so that's costing the value of crude oil to be $10 or $15 a barrel more than it should be.
John, the first thing that Joe Biden did, the very first thing, his first day in office back in 2020, was to command the Department of the Interior to stop approving drilling on federal land. Well, a lot of the cheapest, easiest oil to get to is on federal land. And so while we have still been pumping because American producers are very creative, God bless them, the fact is we would have access to cheaper oil if the government hadn't gotten in the way. So not only would the price of oil be lower, which benefits consumers, but think of what a different conversation it would be if all of a sudden the U.S. becomes the largest producer in the world, oil is low, we're starving Iran of revenue, we're starving Russia of revenue, and the Chinese are coming to us on their knees saying, we want your cheap oil. What a different conversation would be, but instead Biden made a deal with the far left side of his party and said we got to go green.
Last word. What did President Obama say about Joe Biden's decisions?
Well, how interesting that Obama appears to have been in the back, sort of pulling the puppet strings the whole time, and yet it was Mr. Obama who wouldn't endorse Kamala Harris until 10 days after it became apparent that she was going to be the candidate. Isn't it amazing? Clinton, both Hillary and Bill, they came right out. All the other Dems came right out. But Obama himself was the last one to endorse
Adam Johnson, thank you for coming on. Keep your eyes on the markets, and we'll talk again real soon. And
Great.
Rita, you have some hot news that is sponsored by the Goya people.
It's the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya. Here's Rita Cosby.
Well, here are the big stories from Goya. We love Goya. President Biden is set to kick off the Democratic National Convention with a primetime speech. It just came out. Reports are saying that the president's speech will focus on passing the torch to Vice President Kamala Harris. The convention is set to begin August 19th in Chicago. Former President Trump took questions today at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention in Chicago. The former president said he didn't know Vice President Kamala Harris was black because she was always of Indian heritage and she was always promoting her Indian heritage. He also went on to say that she now wants to be known as black. He also said that black voters should vote for him because he will protect jobs from being taken away from illegal immigrants and his support of historically black colleges. And also, as you just heard from Adam Johnson here, the Federal Reserve is leaving interest rates unchanged for now. But however, they are saying that they likely may begin to cut some rates in September. And those are the hot Goya stories of the day.
You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC. Breaking news, WABC.
And joining us now with some big breaking news is the founder of Just the News, John Solomon. John, you have some bombshells.
Yeah, listen, I think sometime before now and the end of the week, we are going to get a notification to Congress that the Secret Service, months before the tragedy on July 13th at Butler, Pennsylvania, had some warnings from someone it should be listening to, the chief watchdog of the Homeland Security Department, telling them that, hey, you have some problems. You have some problems with protective details. You have some problems with training. You have some problems with communicating with law enforcement. Now, why is that important? Those are the very things that we now are being told from these hearings that we've all watched on television are the problems that were preludes to the shooter being able to get a clear shot at President Trump on July 13th. This warning occurred sometime earlier this year. It came from the Inspector General of the Homeland Security Department. It's a report that Congressman Barry Loudermilk has been pushing to get public. We got word today from members inside the Homeland Security Department that they have relented. They're going to turn over these records to Congress in the next couple of days. And yes, there were some pretty stark recommendations to the Secret Service that maybe they weren't up to snuff on protection detail anymore.
You know, John Solomon, there's also a word of a whistleblower within the Secret Service. It's like a Secret Service sniper who has been in touch. He sent an email and a memo, and it's going around in Secret Service, verified, that he is so scared that there will be some sort of other attempted assassination attempt of some major figure because now the whole world sees all these enormous lapses.
That's right. So there are multiple Secret Service whistleblowers now cooperating with Congress, including with Senator Hawley, Senator Grassley, Senator Johnson, and Chairman James Comer. Multiple people. And by the way, this sentiment that the rank and file realized that their agency was adrift began several months ago when they started circulating a petition around the Secret Service saying our management is not doing their job right. We're not going to be able to deliver the safety and security that the Secret Service is expected to do. So there are multiple. One of these is a sniper. You're right. There's not any intelligence that they know someone's about to carry out another attack. I think the point that what whistleblower was making is we are so obviously vulnerable. We're so obviously not doing our job. We laid it bare in some of these hearings that someone's going to take another pot shot because why not? We're not doing our job. And I think that was the point that one whistleblower was trying to make. I think we're going to hear a lot in the next few days, not only from whistleblowers, but the first productions of documents to Congress. And I want to remind everybody something we talked about on your great show not that long ago, maybe about a year ago. The Secret Service drove then Vice President-elect Kamala Harris right by a bomb. After sweeping the property, they missed the bomb. It was sitting there. It was a pipe bomb. It was live. And somehow they swept the property and didn't notice the bomb, just like they didn't realize that that building was going to become a potential shooting thing. These are core competencies that we never used to think the White Secret Service would ever drop the ball on. I think we're going to find out that there's been some real erosion of some of the core skills, training, and people that made the Secret Service so good at what they did.
John, when the Secret Service, the acting head of the Secret Service testified the other day, He apologized, which was very nice. But when they asked him how many people were on President Trump's detail and how many people are on President Biden's detail, I'm sure he knew, but did not want to answer.
That's right. Yeah, there are a lot of moments he doesn't want to answer, and a couple of times where he flip-flops or gives double answers. I think this may be one of the most important moments when he's talking about it. They ask him, hey, did you coordinate with police and attend the coordination meeting the morning of? Local police were supposed to have a coordination meeting the morning of July 13th. The local police say the Secret Service didn't show up. Originally, the director or the acting director said, I think we might have shown up. And then he turned around the same center asking and said, well, maybe we didn't show up. Wow. What sort of answer is that? We're 17 days from the incident. You should know the basics of this. Those are the sort of things I think right now that even the acting director, the former deputy, is not engendering confidence in the American people. They're simply not answering basic questions that we should know the answers to by now.
And, John, you said that we're going to have more answers, some more breaking news in the next 48 hours. Does that mean before Friday?
I do believe before Friday that we will see what this Homeland Security Inspector General report that went to Secret Service management earlier this year. So they knew about it long ago. I think we'll see that by the end of the week.
Wow.
Well, John Solomon, thank you so much for coming on, and we will talk to you on Friday.
All right. Thank you. That sounds great.
Well,
very interesting.
Are we ever going to find out the truth?
I don't know. I mean,
look, I'm sure that Secret Service guy is terrific, but Ted Cruz, I believe, was asking the questions. I mean, how many did President Biden have? 100? Did Trump have 20, 30? All he wants to know is some general numbers.
Yeah, he didn't want to release the numbers. Maybe for security reasons, though, too.
Okay.
You know, maybe that's. But you know what's interesting, John? They still haven't gotten into these encrypted apps. And how can you say there's no foreign connection? They're looking into it.
They said there was no foreign connection, and they haven't gotten into the encrypted apps. How can you say there's none?
And, John, too, they also have ties to foreign countries, too. Remember we talked the other day.
New Zealand, Brussels, which is the number one place for spies, and Germany.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay, what do we have next?
Well, we have now General John Teichert. Of course, he's a retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General, national security expert, also Assistant Deputy Undersecretary of the Air Force, and also part of Space Force, too. General, we have a lot of questions on Israel, but what are your thoughts also on this shooting and what seemed to have gone just horribly wrong from a security standpoint? There's new video out today. It's a citizens video that a lot of the media organization are putting out there. And you see, clear as day, you see the shooter popping up on the roof in the background, and you see Trump speaking in the foreground. And they're saying they couldn't see him. Something's missing here.
No, John and Rita, thanks for having me. And you're right. And this continues to be an embarrassment, not just for the Secret Service, but for our country, that our institutions that are charged to protect our senior leaders are so incompetent at doing so that we should all continue to be embarrassed till we get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, there are definitely lots of questions. What about all these strikes, General, that have been taking place? There's this new one that we just found out, this third strike. Of course, we know about the Hezbollah leader in Lebanon, the Hamas leader in Tehran, and now the third. This is the commander of the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps in Damascus. Three, it's a trifecta. They're going for the biggies.
It is, and I think Israel finally has had enough, and they realize that we or they are in an inevitable path to a wider war, and the only thing that can stop it is Iran backing down. And Israel is very carefully calibrating the strikes, including the one last night in downtown Tehran, the capital city of Iran, to message to Iran that Israel is not concerned about escalating, but they know that Iran is, and the only way that Iran can stop all of this from getting out of control is to back down.
Well, Iran has been pressing all the buttons with the Houthis, with the Hezbollah, with Hamas. They're the button pushers.
They are, and they do it because they know that they can get away with it, certainly because they know that the United States under this administration isn't going to stand up to them, but Israel is. And what they've done in the last 24 hours sends these very clear signals to Iran that Israel can strike at will wherever they want, and Iran can't stop them. And we saw in April that all of those 300 missiles and drones headed to Israel were shot down and stopped. And so Israel can stop Iran. Iran can't stop Israel. And that's a huge signal that Iran better back down and call off their minions in Hezbollah and the others, or this is going to get out of control very quickly to the detriment of Iran.
General, I haven't talked to any of the intelligence agencies. There was the last time they had a conflict with Iran, Iran sent some phony 300, 400, 500 drones over. Israel shot them down. And to all the stupid people in the world, oh, see, Iran got even and Israel shot them down. And it was all, it was all orchestrated.
It's all theater.
All orchestrated.
There is a part of the theater of it that every time one of these things happens, it's a message to the other side and to the world. And the message that Israel sent last night was that they are ready to escalate unless Iran backs down. And that's the big signal or theater that happened in the last 24 hours.
Do you think that Iran will let this slide? And they really, there was, by the way, there was a $5 million bonus on the head of one of the people that was killed.
Yeah, so I think that Iran is taking a look at their options, and I think there's probably some back-channel diplomacy going on where Israel is making very clear to Iran and Iran's leaders that they are ready to go full throttle into a widespread war and that it is in Iran's best interest to stop and back down. And I think that messaging is going on in the background, and hopefully Iran will listen because they know that Israel is serious. Unlike the United States, that's been playing games and demonstrating weakness, Israel is not ready to play weakness, and they're going to show strength.
General,
we have Rudy Washington.
Yes. How close do you think Iran really is to the nuclear bomb? I mean, for the last 5 years, it's been a month, it's been a month, it's been a month. How close do you think they really are?
They are, if they make the decision to go nuclear, it's the matter of a week or so. They like playing the game that they have some diplomacy leverage by not yet going nuclear, but they are just on the ragged edge. And in a moment's notice, if they make the decision to go, then they'll have nuclear capability, and that's a real concern for the world.
Well, General, thank you so much for coming on. And keep your eyes open because there's so many things happening. Nobody knows what the truth is anymore.
Nope, you're right. Reach out anytime. I love being on with you all.
Thank you, General.
Thank you. And we've got a break now.
Let's take that break. And who's coming back?
Rich Lowry with the National Review. And he's going to talk about Kamala Harris and why she may be a threat to America. Stay tuned.
I'm going to have some Goya beans while we're on break.
Ooh, yum.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, Kamala Harris is flip-flopping all over the place, and there's a lot of stuff on audio and video of what she has said. And joining us now is Rich Lowry, the editor-in-chief of National Review. Rich, you wrote a really powerful column about Kamala Harris' threat to America. Explain.
Yeah, look, she wants to pack the Supreme Court. She wants to end the Senate filibuster. There's no institution in American government or life that she truly respects. She's further left than any president we've ever had. If she wins election, she'll govern further to the left to Barack Obama. She is totally in on DEI. She is totally in on the 1619 Project and his poisonous view of American history, just on and on and on. So she is a menace. She's being perfumed by the media, of course, over the last 2 weeks, and they'll try to do that the next 3 months. I don't think it'll last or they'll succeed, but it's a threat.
You know, it's incredible because one of the things that they just put out a video, the Kamala Harris team, and it's saying how tough she is on the border, what a tough prosecutor she is. Like you just said, they're trying to rewrite history. And yet at the same time, we have her on videotape talking about how they should reimagine policing and supporting, the Minnesota Freedom Fund. I mean, it's incredible to see the political gamesmanship.
Yeah, there are about 10 things she's changed on just the last couple of days that she said in 2019 and 2020 with no real explanation, nothing from her. They do it by surrogates or staffers or press statements. And now she's out, as you point out, with this ad saying that she's tougher on the border than Donald Trump. I mean, it's a grotesque lie. It's sociopathic. There are millions and millions of additional illegal immigrants in this country because of what she and Joe Biden did, whereas they had inherited a border that was under control because Trump figured it out towards the end of his presidency. So, I mean, there are no words for it, Rita. Orwellian is an understatement.
Yeah, I almost thought it was like a misprint when I heard it. I'm like, wait a minute, this can't be true. Judge Weinberg.
Good to talk to you again, Rich. Let me ask you this question. How do you account for this big bump that she's gotten in the polls? It's mind-boggling to me because she 2 weeks ago was less popular than Joe Biden.
Yeah, I know. Well, a lot of it has to do with the media honeymoon. She was a disappointing vice president as of like a month ago, and now she's one of the most promising political figures in American history. But also, I think Democrats are just relieved that, they had an 81-year-old man who clearly wasn't up for it. They all believed that he wasn't up for it, even the Democrats, and he's gone, he's out of the picture. So she's brought home a lot of Democrats, and because it's an evenly divided country, you do that, and the race gets really narrow again. And I think we should brace ourselves. There's a good chance she'll be ahead in the polls after the Democratic convention, and then we'll have to see where the race settles out. And it wouldn't surprise me if it settles out as a tie or Trump back ahead a little bit, but there's no doubt the race is back on.
Also one of the other issues is, as we talk about the border, she's also on, talking about how anybody who crosses the border, that they're not illegal. And even Elizabeth Warren has come out and said that she is going to be, she meaning Kamala Harris, is going to be like a gem for them, pushing for a pathway to citizenship for like 10 to 20 million people? I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah, she wanted to decriminalize illegal immigration. She wanted to give all sorts of benefits to illegal immigrants, and she favored a mass amnesty. And every indication, I don't think she's backed off of that. Every indication is she'd amnesty everyone who's come in the last couple of years. So again, that she is portraying herself as some sort of border hawk is one of the most blatant political lies we've heard in the last 3 decades, and we've heard a lot.
And by the way, speaking of sort of the, the transformation, the revisionist history, did you see this, Rich Larry, that on Google and Meta, which owns Facebook, they actually, they said, oh, we're so sorry. It must have been some innocent mistake. But it turned out some of the search engines didn't go if you looked it up. And if you looked up Trump assassination, it came out to fiction. I mean, and then the famous shot where he has his hands up saying fight, fight, fight right after that attempted assassination. They said, oh, no, it wasn't going to the picture, that we can't show that picture. I mean, this is incredible. It reminds me of the laptop.
Rita, I am afraid that this artificial intelligence and these Googles of the world, they're going to control history. They're going to control what the truth is.
Yeah, that's scary. Very scary.
Rich, what say you about this?
Well, they always say it's an innocent mistake, but all the innocent mistakes always go one way, right? They're never going to make an innocent mistake that harms the political chances of Kamala Harris. It seems as though the Google thing has been fixed. I just Googled ASSA on my laptop here in my office, and the assassination attempt on President Trump came right up. So the complaints made a difference, but people had to notice it and complain, and they've created a number of fake narratives, right? One was that Joe Biden was up for the job, right? They went with that fake narrative and got away with it for a fairly long time. Then the debate made it unsustainable. Now we're into this new fake narrative that Kamala Harris is a unique political talent and some sort of moderate, and they'll try to get away with that. So just the way our media life works now, you just can't believe anything the mainstream media is telling you. There's some good reporters and good work, but the narrative overwhelms all, and the narrative is meant to defeat Donald Trump and elect Kamala Harris.
Rich, this is Rudy Washington. Wait until we begin to see the deep fakes against Republicans. And I never underestimate people's ability to rationalize. All you have to do is tell someone a lie close to what they want to believe, and they grab onto it. And they do that every 4 years. They demonize. I say that President Trump never had one day in his presidency where it was a good day. and people gave him credit for what he had accomplished. Not one day. I mean, so the media spend 4 years attacking this man, demonizing him, making him a racist and everything else. It has an impact. And I said earlier in the show, don't underestimate their ability to pull this off.
I agree with you. There basically wasn't a good news cycle the entire Trump presidency. But now people look back and his retrospective job approvals over 50%, and he can make the case against Kamala Harris. He's going to have to punch through all the media nonsense, but the case is there. She's dangerously liberal, as I said in that border ad, which is pretty good. They launched yesterday. They need to keep on making that case, and then she'll move off all that stuff, and have to explain why she's disavowed it, and then they can attack her as a phony. This is actually a very tried and true Republican playbook. We've seen it work, time and again over the last 40 years. They just need to execute on it.
What do you make also, Rich Lowry, of the fact that just the vitriol that we're hearing also? Because remember they said, we're going to back off after what happened, the assassination attempt. She called him a predator last night. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it lasted 48 hours. It was always obvious they weren't going to stick to this higher toned politics they promised after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. But, Trump's a street fighter too, and he's got to be in this thing. And just, as I say, hang the Biden record around her neck, hang her positions from 19 and 20 around her neck, and let her explain why she was saying things that she didn't believe, and then call her a phony and empty vessel. It's a winnable race. I still favor him. It's just a tougher race now.
Rich Lowry, we got a minute left. What do you want to tell the American people?
This is a great and good country, and we need to believe in America. And I think Kamala Harris doesn't. I think she has the poisonous left-wing woke view of America, and that suffuses everything she does and every position she takes, and it is a threat to the integrity of this country.
Well, Rich Lowry, thank you so much. Great columns, as always, there in the National Review. We love having you, the editor-in-chief there. Rich, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rita. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what do we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
God bless America. We certainly need God's blessing.